crucifixion. And this whole series, we've been talking about how the Gospel of Mark is telling us the story about how Jesus becomes king. And what I want to submit to us for consideration is this is the moment. This is the coronation. In my head, I call this Coronation Day, because this is the moment where Jesus is crowned, not with a crown of gold, but with a crown of thorns. This is the moment where he actually receives the title king. They were mocking him, and Pilate was trying to anger the Jews, and he nailed King of the Jews above his head. But Mark and all the gospel writers want us, the readers, to know that that was a true statement, as much as maybe no one in the crowd thought that it was true, because it doesn't look like it's true. Nobody thinks that a king who's about to die is a successful king. And so even if Jesus was supposed to be the king, the fact that Rome is about to kill him means that he failed. That's what all the disciples would have thought. And save for the resurrection, we would have looked back in history and said that was a failed messianic movement. But Jesus knows, and we, the readers, are supposed to know that this is actually the moment when Jesus becomes king. This is the most powerful thing God has ever done, dying for his enemies so that we could receive new life. There's a lot of connections here. Mark weaves so many threads together in this one scene to just help us give new angles and perspectives on the importance of Jesus' death. A couple links back to a few weeks ago. Remember the question of James and John. Teacher, can we sit at your right hand and your left when you enter into your glory? And right here in the text today, we have Jesus coming, and there's a rebel on his right and his left. That seems very significant, and Mark wants us to think back to that question, linking it to this moment. So go back and look at that and look at this, and what does it mean that this is the moment where Jesus has a person on his right and his left as he's being crowned with a crown of thorns? They then crucify him. There's a lot I'm going to skip over, but there's one in particular. Jesus cries out the first line of Psalm 22, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. And there's been some theologies have looked at that, I think out of context, personally, to say that on the cross, God, the Father, turned his back on his son because God couldn't be in the presence of sin, and so he allowed Jesus, the man, to die alone on the cross. But that could not be farther from the truth. Jesus, by crying out the first line of Psalm 22, is bringing in the entire psalm. That's Jesus' prayer in that moment. And it is a deep cry of anguish. God, God, why have you forsaken me? But the psalm continues. Go back and read Psalm 22. And it ends actually with a great declaration of hope that God has not abandoned me. What we see on the cross is not God abandoning Jesus to his sin. What we see on the cross is God dying for the world. Jesus is the clearest picture of God that we have ever seen or ever will see. And what we see on the cross is not God abandoning us. It's God being so close to us that he's taking on all of our pain, crying out that kind of cry of anguish. Actually, Mark weaves images from Psalm 22 throughout this whole scene. Go and read next, side by side, chapter 15 of Mark and Psalm 22 slowly, and there's way more than just that one verse shows up. That's like a little Easter egg, but Mark weaves Psalm 22 throughout this whole scene. He wants us to see that this psalm is being fulfilled in this moment. Another aspect of this that I find fascinating is the centurion right at the end, looking at Jesus breathing his last breath, and he says, surely this man is the Son of God. And that phrase, Son of God, is really important. If you recall, it was back in page 1, line 1 of Mark, where we first saw it. Mark said, this is the beginning of the good news of Jesus the Christ, the Son of God. And then those two terms Mark uses very sparingly. Actually, this is the next time he uses it. And so the Jesus as the Christ, the Messiah, we have to wait till the very middle of the book where Peter proclaims, you are the Christ. And so it took us halfway through the book to get to that first phrase. And then the beginning of the good news of Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God, it takes us all the way to the end, and it bookends the whole book from Son of God in line 1 to Son of God right here at the very end. And we're supposed to see, oh, this is the moment that fully declares Jesus is the Son of God. Even moments like back in in the trial in chapter 14, where in our small group last week, we talked about how odd it was that the high priest didn't use the phrase Son of God because it seemed really a natural fit back there in the trial of the Sanhedrin. I think Mark was saving it for this moment. So what does that mean? Why is this the moment where Mark declares this is when Jesus is revealed as the Son of God? There's a lot more here. This is the most important story of our faith. So take some time this week. There's even more great questions to dig into what's going on in here. And one is we take a somber look at the cross and really let it sink in how important it is for us. We can also look at it from all these different angles. How does seeing it through the lens of Jesus' coronation day change what we're reading? How does seeing it through the lens of Psalm 22 change what we're reading? And how, as Mark has been leading us on this journey to find Jesus as the Son of God, how that the fact that it happens right here at the climax of his life, what does that mean for you and me? So have fun this week. Looking forward to digging in with you all. Thanks, everybody.